and you got to get on stage everywhere. You got to do a wedding. You got to do a baby shower. You got to do a bar. You got to do a laundromat. You got to do a coffee shop. You got to do everything. You got to do colleges. You got to do a college cafeteria on top of a table while people just want their dinner, and some other people want to watch the soap opera that's on the TV behind you. That's different now because everybody has phones. You got to, you got to do stand up in places where they're not expecting you. You got to do stand up in places where they don't want you to be. You got to you got to learn how to win people over. You got to learn how to make people go, well, who the fuck is this? And by the end of it, how do we not hear about him before?
Hot breath.
Which side do you want?
The Love Master. You get there. Yeah. In these exact seats, I interviewed Craig Shoemaker, and he gave us the most epic groupie squirting story. Are you familiar with Craig Shoemaker?
Yeah, I do. That's disgusting.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
He said it's the only time he'll ever tell the story, but it got.
I'm sure he's telling a lot of them.
So let's just to let you know, this show is all just.
We started.
I'll do the intro in a second.
Okay.
But it's just all comedy mastery. So
Okay.
And even in listening to your interviews, it seems you're full of wisdom, and it seems like I would love to just extract as much of that as possible from you.
Okay, whatever you want. Yeah, I'll just go wherever you lead me.
Perfect. All right.
Perfect.
So, all right. Hot Breath Podcast. Welcome back, Hot Breathiverse. I am your host, comedian Joel Byers. This is the Hot Breath Podcast, your weekly guide to comedy mastery. Today's guest is not only a master of crowd work, but he is a master of the comedian mindset. 2 weeks into exploring an explosives engineer degree, he tries an open mic. Next thing he knows, he's hitchhiking from Vancouver to Montreal and back, and then moving to New York with $1,000 to his name, stays in a hostel for 4 months, then books Conan. Now he's had Comedy Central specials, HBO specials, Showtime specials. This is a comedian who has put his mind to something and has achieved it. So we're hoping that you watching out there find this helpful in developing your mindset to be persistent as a comedian. But if you do find this helpful, subscribe to our YouTube, our iTunes, support us, hotbreathpodcast.com, support our guest, hit him up on all social media, let him know how helpful this episode was. And with that being said, Ian Bagg, welcome to the Hot Breathiverse.
Buddy, I should have wore pants.
Were you thinking that as soon as you walked in?
As soon as I walked in, like, he's wearing a suit.
You're like, why is this guy wearing a suit?
Oh, my goodness.
It's my 2019. I've been wearing more suits.
Oh, okay.
Because I have a wife, and I think she's ready for me to...
She's ready for you to have a day job?
Hit the next level, yeah. I think she's ready.
Oh, my goodness. She's like, you should be a lawyer, not a comedian.
Do you find that, like, in comedy, it's kind of what you put out is what you'll get back?
Yeah, I guess. What do you have to... I listened to a podcast called Gary V. I don't know if you...
Yes,
so,
of course.
And he talks about, and I don't know if we're allowed to swear on this, but he talks...
Say whatever you want.
He talks about, you basically, you gotta get your dick dragged in the dirt to get someplace. And
right.
I feel you should never expect anything. That's how I feel. I feel you should just be doing stuff, and you should never expect anything. Comedy is a personal experience. It's a personal journey. So what you do will not work for me. What your timeline will not be my timeline. We just have to do our thing. So if you love it, you'll do it. You won't expect anything from it. You'll just do it because you get all the pleasure from doing whatever show it is, no matter bar, theater, concert venue, whatever. You love it. Doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. So, and if you don't, it's a much longer journey, and probably you're a much bitter person than a better person.
But you've been doing it since 94?
Yeah, about 94, yeah.
About 94?
Yeah, holy. When I listen to you give my intro, I'm like, oh, I should be much further than where I am. That's all I could think. I was just like, oh, man. my management and agents have a right to be depressed. We've done all that stuff, and none of us are millionaires. So.
But what is
as I tell you all that, and then I'm like, I should be rich.
You're like, be better, not bitter, and you're like, I've been doing this too long, man.
Mother. So, yeah.
But what is further along? What do you mean? Like, what would that
I don't
mean?
know. I have a theory in life. Be happy with where you are, but never satisfied. So I don't know where further along should be. Should I be selling more tickets in the comedy club? That might be further along for me. Like every show should be sold out, not every couple shows, you know. So that's further along for me. Whereas somebody else further along might be they needed a TV show, they need some of this, they needed that. So I don't know where further along is, but I should be there.
It seems like you've almost just done action. You've just put yourself into situations, and then whatever happens. It seems like you don't really have a specific game plan. You just do, and then accept the outcome.
I've also had the theory that doesn't matter what you do as long as you get a couple jokes out of it. It doesn't matter. So whether it's getting beaten up, whether it's wrecking a motorbike, or whether it's as long as you get a joke out of it, who cares? So that's who I am. That's not who you should be, but that's who I am. So yeah. So I just go do things. Like when I moved to New York, it was a little bit of. It was a little bit of want and a little bit of just being so naive that I didn't know I should be a 20-year-old kid going into New York by myself with $1,000 Canadian in my pocket. You know what I mean? Not even, and I didn't even. I'm so dumb. I didn't even exchange it in Canada. I exchanged it in America, and they're just like, "What's this?" I'm like, "That's Canadian money." So yeah.
There's something about that comedian mindset, because I've been doing it a little over 9 years. The first time I did it was the second semester senior year of college, and as soon as I did it, I'm like, that's it. It's a shift.
It's heroin.
Yeah.
It's honestly heroin. You're either addicted or you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. The guys that can go, I'm just taking a 3-year break. I'm like, no, that's not how heroin works. No. You ride it into the ground or you're done.
Right. Yeah.
So
like Don Rickles said, like comedians don't die or retire, they die.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. There's that guy that died on stage in England a couple weeks ago.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
It was Ian. I can't remember what it. Ian something. Yeah, his name was Ian, but just walk on right there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We're doing this in a hotel.
Yeah, we're doing this in the lobby.
No, just go through,
bud.
no,
please.
No, please.
It'll
just
add
don't
to
worry
the
about
ambiance.
Us. Just a couple. It's just the news.
Good. We had when I
just go on through. No. Okay,
all
right.
When I did Craig's interview, there were people over there just sitting watching us. We had like a live audience.
That's awesome. Just an audience watching you guys talk dumb. No, I don't know what we're talking about. Oh, he died. The guy that died. He died on stage, and it was amazing how many people were just like, "That's how I want to go." On stage. But whenever you read there's been a couple guys that it happened. It takes people. They probably would have survived had they had their incident anywhere else. But because they're on stage, people just watch for another 10 minutes thinking it's a bit.
Oh,
so,
man.
So they could have revived him had they done something, but they didn't do anything because they thought he was being funny. So it's something about that mindset of like, I mean, if it wasn't second semester senior year, I would have dropped out of school. But I was like, I might as well finish the drill now. But I think like Brian Regan quit like the week of graduation. He tried it and was just like, no, that's it. Yeah.
Like, what is it? Because you've been in comedy so long. In New York, you were around people like Jim Gaffigan and Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle and all these greats. Like,
everybody. You play to your level, right? So if you go in at a certain level and suddenly you're around all these guys that are strong, your level's going to get better. Sadly, they're going to get worse hanging around you. Because you play to your level, so they come down to, oh, that's sad. But you just, you have to just keep doing all the work. It doesn't matter where you are. You should always want to keep moving. You never want to be that guy that is the big fish in that town. You want to keep moving to the next level, and, because that big fish has a tendency to eat all the guppies and then suddenly end up on the shore not doing anything. You know what I mean? So you just want to. I went from Vancouver to New York and then New York to LA. Did I need to move? Was I the big fish in New York? No. I was a medium-sized fish with a lot of medium-sized fish, and I moved to LA not because I needed a bigger space, but because I grew up in Canada, and I found out that it's warm all the time in Los Angeles, and I can do what I can do in Los Angeles. That's what I wanted to do. But if I had started out in America, I probably would have started out whatever town I grew up, and then I would have found the next level, and then I would have gone to the next level, and then I would have gone to the next level of city that has stand-up scenes. So I think, I know you didn't even ask me this question. I think the big stand-up scenes are like Minneapolis has a big stand-up scene. A lot of guys live in Cincinnati for some unknown reason. I don't know if you know that. Chicago's always had a big, comedy scene. But I think the top ones are New York, LA, Chicago. Those are the three top ones. But Nashville has got a big scene.
Atlanta has a big scene.
I was gonna. Well,
Yeah.
you guys also, unless the government ruins it, you guys have a huge film industry here,
Yeah.
which creates that scene. So
That's why I'm still here, though, is like just trying to create my own opportunities here instead of, because I've been to New York and LA, but it seems like I would have to move there and almost start over.
that's exactly what happens.
So, but like you said, the environment, though, is important in developing around.
Yeah,
Bigger.
you have a very good chance of living here, of getting something on TV and moving to New York at an established rate. So you never are the small fish. You know what I mean? So when you go to LA or New York, people want to be around you already. Whereas if you go without anything, you want to be around them.
Yes.
So, and that's where I was at all times. I want to be around you guys. So
But it's worked out.
it's worked out.
Like you're
You
developing.
got to put in the work no matter what. Like
course.
if you put in the work here and get something, you've put in the work. There's very few people that get anything without putting the work in.
Boom.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I know guys are like, well, he didn't deserve that. He put in the work. He may not be your favorite comedian, but there's something about him that he put in the work.
Exactly.
So
The repetition of stand-up and just learning the skill set, that's the language of it. And what's fun about your style is you're doing almost a different language in stand-up. You've developed, like, you've turned crowd work into like its own craft and its own show, and not in a hacky way.
Oh, it's
of
hacky.
like, oh, you think it's
no, I don't think it's. I think it's. I honestly believe my show is me in concentrate. You know what I mean? Like nobody wants to be around that guy all day. but that guy, there, it's if you put Tang in there, that's all of a sudden, it's good. But if you don't want to drink the crystals, yeah.
What was the process of developing that skill set? And let's get into the weeds here, because crowd work
sure.
is something comedians are like scared of, and they may dip their toe and be like, oh, never mind. So like, if we could break down even just from like a beginner all the way to now a pro of like developing the skill set of crowd work.
Well, first of all, I think a lot of guys I'm gonna ask this question. They're gonna say that, and then I'm gonna say this. They practice crowd work, which I don't think you can practice crowd work. The only way to practice crowd work is go to someplace and ask somebody a question and see how they respond. That's the only way you can do it. And I've always been that guy that's kind of just started conversations with people in the middle of nowhere, even though as I've gotten older, I don't talk to anybody on a plane or anything like that. But it takes learning conversation. It takes being able to listen to somebody to give an answer to, There's nothing worse when I watch a guy do crowd work and he has the prepared answer and hasn't heard what they've said. And it just makes no sense at all. What do? I'm a mechanic. Lawyers are dicks.
Right.
Yeah.
They have them in the chamber. They almost
Yeah.
like try to steer them into material in a sense. But that is a technique within crowd work of like, you ask someone, how long you been married? And they're like 2 years. Like, oh, I've been married 3 years. Let me tell you this. And they have material about
But that's not really
marriage.
crowd work.
Ah.
That's just leading into a story. Yeah, crowd work is to me is having a conversation. Having a conversation is how long you've been married. Let me tell you about what. Yeah, that's basically banter that a band would have. Hey Jerry, how long you been playing the bass? 14 years. That's funny. Remember 14 years ago we started. That's basically that. Yeah, crowd work is when it can go sideways and you don't care and can still make something out of it.
What is the most sideways? What's the most sideways?
Oh, it goes all the time. Like The last time I was here, a guy was throwing bananas at the comics before me.
What?
And they didn't kick him out, and I went on stage. It went sideways from there. They wanted to fight me like that. That kind of sideways, like yeah, that, you know, it's. I've had a girl pass out in the middle of the show and hit her head. Like, you know, I had a guy have a seizure and like that kind of the sideways where you should think everything stops, but you're able to keep the balls moving.
Mm-hmm.
You can be concerned about them. They can be taken care of, and they leave, and then you keep the show going. Like that kind of sideways, you know, that kind of. I love when I say to somebody, "Are you married?" "My husband's dead." You know, that kind of thing. You know. Now you got to take that and like that goes sideways. People death will throw a real weird wrench into a show. No time.
Show.
Yeah. So you got to be able to, you know, that kind of thing. You got to be prepared for anything. You know, it's like flying a plane. You got to be prepared for anything. So and the big thing is about making people able to escape, letting her escape from her husband being dead. Mm-hmm. If you can get her to escape from that, the rest of the crowd's going to follow.
So you lean into that when someone says my husband's dead, you like, oh, what? You go like, what happened? Or?
I'm like, how long?
Uh-huh.
How long has he been dead for? So you're single? All right. You know what I mean?
Right.
You leave your money? Because I'll call my wife right now.
And then boom, you're out of
something stupid like that.
Something stupid but effective.
Yeah. Something stupid, but something to make her laugh. You know, just because people are there to laugh, to escape. You know, sometimes people they're just not there to have fun at all, which makes me. I'm just like, you've been tricked into this by your friends, and you couldn't just stay in the car while they came in and had a great time.
Yeah,
you had to bring it down for everybody. But I don't know, it's just having fun, right?
The energy you put out, though, of like if you put out a fun energy, then the audience will kind of reflect that back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it doesn't matter if you can be the darkest person in the comic in the world. Mm-hmm. If you're having fun with it,
have fun.
Like Stanhope's, he's insane, but he's having fun, right?
Right.
There's a reason they get on that trip. There's no that he doesn't get that if he's cranky. It's not fun. You know, it's fun. Doesn't matter. Oh, you know, even Mark Maron, who's the crankiest son of a bitch ever. It's fun. Like his crankiness is fun. You know what I mean? And he's having fun with being able to, you know what I mean? So it's the guys that aren't having fun up there that don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Because you know you might as well teach a class.
But you have you travel like 100,000 miles a year.
Yes.
Through stand up. So like some shows.
Hello, Atlanta.
You don't maybe necessarily feel like bringing the fun energy. You just
I've had shows. Where was I? I was in a bad mood. I had a headache last week, and I drove up. We had a bunch of friends at the show, and I didn't have any place to escape or lie down before the show. I was in Oxnard, and I live in Long Beach, and Oxnard's an hour and a half from my house, and we drove up. When I say we, my wife came along with me to the show, who doesn't come to many shows. But she had friends up there. I had friends up there. They're all coming out to hang out. I had put a Coke Zero. I know this just sounds like a pansy store. I had a Coke Zero that I'd put in the fridge, like a bottle of it that I'd put in the fridge for the next night because it kind of, and I know it's probably, if there's a doctor watching, it doesn't do anything. But in my mind, a little bit of Coke Zero gives me a little bit of a fresher up, right? And I'd had a headache from driving up, and I was like, as soon as I get there, I can have some Coke Zero, and I get there, and it's not in the fridge, and I'm just like, what the? And the waiter has thrown out the stuff out of the fridge. I'm like, what? It's the green room. It's my green room for the weekend. Why would you throw my shit out of here? And it put me in such a bad mood. And then all of a sudden, I knew I had to go on stage, and I was like, okay. What do we do? And I just as you're walking up the stage, things click. I'm just like, yes. And then by the top of the stage, I was in a good mood.
What do you mean things click? How do you transition into that?
Because I've been doing it so long.
Right.
I just kind of think about a couple things, and I get myself to that space.
Okay.
So I think about, why am I doing this? Because I love this. How much money am I making at the end of the weekend? I love money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm excited because I've got my new T-shirt to sell. Like I just like, what are you excited about? Not what are you depressed about? What are you angry about? As soon as I get a couple on the top of the stairs, I'm like, yes, I'm in show business. So and then it was fun. 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't have been able to do that.
Boom.
10 years ago, I changed everything by I don't watch my openers, so I don't know what's going on for the show. So even though now most of the time I pick my own openers, the times that I don't pick my openers, I don't know what they've said, so nothing's made me angry. Which I know some people are like, what does that mean? When you don't pick your openers, you can get guys that are just, they're not good, they're hacky, they decide they should hit all your premises, even though they didn't the night before.
Right.
Yeah, like I remember I watched a couple guys that are like, I can't believe this guy's doing a bit about Canada, and I'm the one from Canada. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
So that kind of thing. So I don't know. Everything's fresh. That's one of the things. So I don't know what's going on. I've had, you when you do have good things happen to you, you go bank this. You bank it in your head. You go, this was a good time. So as I'm going up the stairs, I'm remembering being in Europe in a hockey arena with 10,000 people watching. I'm remembering when I was on a movie set. I'm remembering when Martin Short told me I was funny. I'm remembering. You remember those kind of things as you go along, and then now you're like, oh yeah. Really, what else happened over there doesn't matter. Here we go. Let's do this.
That's gold, man.
So
that's gold. That mindset, like we referenced at the beginning of this, it can be so. Even like last night, I wasn't like I'm featuring this weekend in the city, and like I was just kind of just apathetic. And then I went and watched the host go up, and he was like killing, and he had good energy, and I was like, well, who am I to be like,
yeah.
This is your job. And then I did start to think, no, this is your job. You're lucky to be here. And that did kind of bring me out of that funk.
Cool, man.
So that's reassuring, though, and even a more effective way of like thinking about things specifically.
Right.
It's not even like, this is my job. It's great. It's not like, how great is this? What are the great things that has happened that led you to this?
Well, you got to remember, first of all, if you're on a stage, you're in the top 52, right? Like there's not many jobs you can say. There's 52 weeks a year. They book 52 comedians. You're in the top 52 of features at that club that year.
Wow.
So now you got to remember, yeah. Now I'm going to make them forget about 51 of those other features. That's what you got. And I'm going to be number one.
That's great.
So yeah.
How do you feel when you were coming up? I've heard headliners be like, oh, don't do any crowd work. Like the feature shouldn't do crowd work. Did you ever hit those roadblocks?
Yeah, I got fired a lot.
Really?
Yeah, I got fired. I got fired by John Witherspoon. He didn't want to follow it. I got fired by, I got fired by, I can't remember, it was a club in Texas that fired me. Even when I first started headlining, clubs would fire me because I was doing crowd work.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Even if it's good.
Yeah, they don't want you talking to the crowd at all. They're like, no, you don't. Because they have so many guys that come in and try it, I guess. But I don't know.
It makes sense as a feature, though, because like if you set up that expectation for the audience, then when the headliner goes up there, then the audience feels like, oh, this is the show.
Nope.
No?
As a headliner, you got to get them on. And Ralph Harris taught me this. You got to get them onto your music.
Okay.
Right? So it'd be like going to see a band and saying, well, the next band is going to play the exact same music. You know what I mean? You got to make them, they got to make them love your music.
I guess any comedian can find an excuse for why it doesn't go well, beyond just it being them.
For the most part, comedians are lazy.
Yeah?
Yeah, lazy. Yeah, and I don't mean comedians sleep until 11 a.m. or the kind of thing. Because I have friends that go, oh, you're going to sleep until 11 a.m.? Yeah. I got a stage at 12:30. You tell me that you're just going to come down right after that, I probably will be up until 3:30 in the morning, just to let you know. So don't give me that you were up at 8 o'clock, but you went to bed at 11, you piece of shit.
Well, that sounds personal.
Talking to you, Brett.
Brett?
Yeah.
You know Brett?
My buddy Brett. He's oh, how much you sleeping? I'm like, 8 hours. Probably less most of the times. And I mean, I'm back and forth across the country. You tell me if your sleep pattern's not all fucking
Yeah, seriously. So let's.
I like your microphones.
You like these?
Are they expensive?
They were a penny. You know, they were a pretty penny, but I invested up front. You know, I invested up front in all of this. So now I've been doing this almost 4 years.
You got your own water?
Yeah, that's for you. That's Fontis water. It's a Georgia spring water. They do custom labels.
That's awesome.
That's for you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm gonna take that. I'm not even gonna open it. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it home with me.
Oh, really?
You taking it home with me?
Do you want me
Put
to
it in my
sign
luggage?
it? Do you want me to sign it?
Sign it.
Tell my wife I finally autographed a Hot Breath Fontis water.
Finally. I told you it was gonna happen, baby. And she's like, whatever.
She'll be
Good
like,
thing I'm a doctor.
It's all in the suit. It's all in the suit.
Yeah. Did you start wearing suits? I told you they're just not for funerals.
So we veered a little bit away from crowd work. Let's get back into it and help these comics get better at crowd work,
Okay.
so they're not so hacky about it. Oh, how?
First of all, if you don't want to do crowd work, don't do crowd work.
Okay.
Like, Gaffigan does not let me open up for him. He does not like the crowd. He doesn't. He's when it goes sideways, it goes sideways. He does not want to. He wants to tell his story, and it's his story. Gather round,
Right.
You know. I mean, and nothing but mad respect for him. But you know, that's just not the way I like comedy. So, and it's not the way I like my show. I when I do stand up, I consider the crowd a bunch of friends, and we're hanging out. And when you're hanging out with a bunch of friends, if only one person gets to talk, you have a tendency to not have many friends. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's the way I look at it. So
And this seems like the best comedians are able to just be conversational, and it is like you're just hanging out, but
Right.
it's a room of 300
yeah,
people.
yeah.
How do you develop that? Is it a confidence thing? Is it delivery? Like,
I guess it's a little bit of confidence, but it's just doing shows. Just doing a lot, and I've done a lot of shows. Like even when I first started out, I when we talk about being addicted, I'm on amateur night, and I'm saying to the older comedians, "Hey, there's a town called Kamloops that has a gig," and I said, "Oh, I see you're in Kamloops this week. Did you want somebody just to drive with you, and then I could do 5 minutes?" And they're like, "All right." And they're like, "Do you want money?" I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Okay, then you can come for sure." Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, you stage time, man.
and that's like a 5-hour drive.
5-hour drive. 5-hour drive for 5
For
minutes.
5 minutes.
For 5 minutes, and
Yeah.
and sometimes it went bad, and sometimes it went good. But nobody's anywhere near 70%, even 75% good of the whole. You know, every time you go on stage at the beginning of your career, like it's all about just getting better every time you go on stage. It goes good. Like and people are like, "Oh, you got to bomb this many times." No, you don't have to bomb that many times, but you got to bomb. You got to bomb, and you got to remember. If you don't have to tape. Some guys tape every show. You don't have to tape, but you got to remember. You got to remember. You got to remember what happened and go, "Oh, learn from your mistakes," and then let it go. Don't remember forever. Just take the pieces out of it that you need to remember forever. But the rest of the show, you let it go. And never think you're great. Never think you're bad. Don't read your articles or press. Just think, oh, I was okay.
I'm sustaining.
Yeah.
How do you remember by like reflecting on the set when you get off stage? How do you remember?
I just it's in my head.
Gifted.
It's in my head. I remember the show. Yeah. Now, not as much. Like people say, "Oh, you should do that." And I'm like, "When did that happen?" But at the beginning of the shows, especially when you're starting out, you have a lot more time between shows. Like, when I first started out, it was maybe 3 or 4 shows a week. You got a couple days in between shows. You can think about that show and go, and write things down. Oh, this happened. Write this, write that down, and just. It's funny because I'm thinking about when I started out, and I'm like, oh yeah, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't owned a comedy book in forever.
When you're starting out?
No, now, but when I started out, I had notebooks. I remember when I came across the border to New York, they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm a writer. I'm going down to just to write about New York." And they looked at all these books, and they're like, "Oh yeah."
And just a bunch of notebooks?
Yeah.
That's what I love about your process now is that you don't necessarily write, but you're mindful of always taking in information every day.
Yes, absolutely.
Always absorbing.
Yeah, the more you do, the more you'll have to talk about. And I write on stage is where I write. So, but the seed, I have to go out and do things. I'm not a guy that sits down and creates by sitting down and writing things. And it's given me this little, and it's not a gift, it's kind of annoying. I can watch a comic now and go, he was sitting at a desk when he wrote that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How can you tell?
I can just see it. I can just see the formation. I'm like, no, you didn't. Yeah, it's just one of those things because you see an excitement in somebody's eyes when they talk about something that happened to them, and it's a different, even though the story may be sold great and the joke may go over just as well, it's a different look on somebody's face when they're making something up.
But I feel like at least starting out in comedy, because we hear all these great comics like, oh, I just write on stage, and then younger comics think they can just go up there and I'll just talk. And it's magic.
No, it's not magic.
But there's something to be understood about how a joke works, the structure,
But that's the beginning.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying in the beginning.
Yeah.
But I feel like when we hear people at your level and it's like, I just write on stage, and then younger people are like, oh, that's all you gotta do is just talk. But you have to understand the rules before you break them.
Yes.
Just understand like the mechanics of comedy, and then you can make it your own. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You agree with that?
Yeah, I do. Well, that's why I say I owned books at the beginning.
Yeah, okay.
I wrote, but I always went out and did things and then wrote about what I did.
Boom.
I didn't, I would try to sit down and write things, but it just like, write a bunch of subjects down and then write about those. I couldn't do that. Now when I get jobs for writing, even then when they want stuff, I have to go out and do stuff about what they want.
Interesting.
And then write about it. And it's funny because when I do writing, all I think about is if they don't use these jokes, I'm getting them. So they're double paychecks.
Right, of course. A true comedian, always hoarding jokes.
Yeah, because I'll ask, so you're not going to use that? Like, no. Can I use it? Yeah, go ahead. I'm like, okay.
When you were starting,
I remember one time.
Yeah, please.
I had to write. Gabriel Glacis had a show, Stand Up Revolution, I think it was called, and they hired me to write a bunch of intros and extras and jokes and stuff for when he was on stage, and somebody. They missed their plane and they weren't going to make it to film the show, and they're like, Ian, go do it. And I'm like, okay. I said, okay. I said, you know all those jokes I had? And he's like, yeah. I said, do you mind if I do them? He's like, go ahead. So I went and did all these jokes, and then afterwards he goes, oh, they're really good. So I did a whole set with just these jokes that I'd written for Gabriel.
Yeah. And it went well.
And it went well. It was great. I still use a couple of them. So.
Oh, so you will use jokes?
Oh, I do.
I do. You weave them in.
Well, yeah. There's times where it lulls. So now I'll go into jokes, and then something will happen back in the conversation. Lull into jokes. It's like surfing. You got to catch the waves and figure out how to not get tumbled into the sand. Yeah.
And there's a big self-awareness, I feel like, when it comes on stage in learning what's working for you on there and then just doubling down on that. For example, like I have found with my comedy very recently that sarcasm plays well. And when I do, I'll get laughs on facial expressions. So, I mean, I'm in the infant stages of even learning how to manipulate that, but I've started to notice I can elongate a laugh by facial expressions. So like when you were developing crowd work or your stage persona, were there almost little breadcrumbs that you've started to kind of put into your toolkit of like, okay, I know I can execute this tool here, and over here, if that happens, I know I can react like this, and it's me and not just a caricature.
Yeah, I guess.
Did that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just like, it's like, they're like, man. I have noises that come out of me, like, and different stuff that comes out of me that didn't come out of me when I was first starting out. I was very deadpan. Like when I had a conversation with the crowd, I was deadpan. I didn't move. I still don't take the microphone out of the stand very much, but I was completely like just stiff on stage, and I used to hang out with Hedberg when I first started out.
Oh my gosh.
And we used to go do all these shows all over the place, and we both had long hair, and we were both deadpan. He was more. I had a bunch of one-liner jokes, and he had all these one-liner jokes, and we kind of hung out a little bit. So he used to come stay at my house all the time, and then what's funny is he married a girl that was at my very first open mic. Lynn was at my very first open mic, and then I seen her. She was hanging out, and Bonnie McFarlane was at my very first open mic, and Lynn was hanging out, and she was kind of doing stand up and kind of not doing stand up, and then I seen her in Toronto, and she'd been hit by a car, and then I seen her in Toronto again. She'd been hit by another car. I'm like, Lynn, you've been hit by 2 cars, and she's like, yeah. I'm like, you got to look both ways. Like you look one way. No. So anyway, and then the next time I seen her, she was with Mitch. I'm like, are you opening for Mitch? She goes, I'm married to him. I'm like, what? And then the next thing you know, he was dead. I was like, oh, I blame her.
And he died on April Fool's Day, and I didn't believe it.
Everybody thought it was fake.
He was one of my favorites, and
So good.
when I heard, he died, I was like, it's April Fool's Day. There's no way. That's perfect, Mitch Hedberg. And then, no, drugs,
and just so funny.
Do you have a favorite like Mitch Hedberg story, or an experience you could share?
Nah, I have a lot. My big thing, the last time I seen him, he was really healthy, and that's the way I want to remember him. Mm-hmm. He was like, he was happy, he was good, and we had a conversation, and we hadn't had a conversation in a long time. It was just a mess. So I was just like, oh fuck, he's doing really well, and then he was dead a couple months later, and I was like, well, that was confusing. So I like to remember him, and I just think of him as I can remember. I can see the green room that we're in Montreal. We're in Montreal, and we're having. I think it's underground, but it's it's like in this bricked room, and it's like those old like stone bricks. And who else was in the room? But they were kind of bitchy on the other side, where the Flight of the Conchords were on the. and I just remember talking with Mitch and stuff, and he was really healthy. That's what I remember about it. Yeah.
When we think about an onstage persona versus offstage, how similar were the two personalities?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember. I just think of him. That smile and laugh that he did on stage was smile and laugh he did off stage. That's it was nice to make him laugh. So.
And he was more of a pen to paper guy.
Yeah, but it was out there, man. It wasn't sit down and write down. It was, hey, those were his thoughts. Those were real thoughts. That wasn't pushing for a joke. That just came out naturally. Which I love. I love unforced humor. He was not forced at all. You know what I mean?
How early into your career did you guys connect?
I was still living in Vancouver.
Oh, this is before you moved to New York? Oh, it's from the beginning. Oh my God.
I want to say 93. And who else was around? And he only told me a couple years ago, because I thought I met him in New York when I first met him, was Brody Stevens was hanging around in Vancouver.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I don't know what, my eyes are starting to tear up just thinking about that. I don't know why. I don't even know either of them. But I guess when you're in like the comedy world.
Well, when you're in any world.
You feel so connected to your peers in a sense, even if you didn't know them.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's a pretty small world. It's grown a lot, but it's still pretty small. It's when you hear a name and you don't know who it is in stand-up, you're like, well, that's interesting. Like, I'd never heard of Kevin Hart before, and then all of a sudden he was a star.
Wow.
Like
Interesting.
that apparently we floated in the same world, but I never. So there's very few of those people. So.
But what a skill set a lot of the best comedians have is being able to make the audience see what you're talking about. Like
Painting picture.
Yeah, painting a
You
picture.
know what the best? Cosby was the best at painting a picture.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Before the incident, I saw him live here. One of the craziest comedy nights of my life. I saw Cosby at one venue and then went and watched Chappelle at another. Cosby did like 2 hours, and it was just instant. I didn't look at my watch once. You're just in his movie the entire time.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's fine. I'm thinking about the best night I had for stand-up was seeing Sam Kinison, and then I seen Drake Sather the same night. I don't know. You should look him up.
Okay.
He wrote a ton of movies, but he was such a funny stand-up. I remember some of his jokes were just like he was on the People's Court once because him and his wife were going through a divorce, and he threw a baby carriage at her.
Oh my gosh. A role model.
And he's like, oh, I didn't throw it. I rolled it at her really fast. It was but he was deadpan. He looked like he did look like a rock star. This tall, thin guy with like shaggy hair, and I remember he talked about watching the Ronald McDonald House telethon, and they got to $1 million, and all he could think was, how big of a house does this fucking clown need? One of his other ones was, my doctor told me to quit smoking, but I know if I quit smoking, I'll go right back to heroin. Oh, God. Or sucking dick. Was it sucking dick or heroin? I can't remember. One of those two.
Be a bigger leap.
He was just so fucking, he was dark. He was so dark. Yeah, look him up.
Drake Sather. Okay.
Yeah, there's got to be YouTube stuff out there. He did like an HBO special, and I think he was on Young Comedian special at one point too.
Okay.
Can't remember. He wrote maybe he wrote Meet the Parents. I can't remember. Something like he wrote a couple movies. So
we all have homework.
Y'all have
Drake
homework.
Drake
Sather.
So when we talk about being able to make the audience see what you're talking about, what is like the technique or
Connection.
how? Connection.
As soon as you get the connection with the audience,
Okay.
they'll see what you want.
How do you establish that connection?
It's the work you have to do, bro.
I almost feel like
I'm
you're
not giving-
holding you're like
I'm not-
holding
I'm not
the
giving-
Sorcerer's Stone over here. You're like the Lord of the Rings.
So
Like, I'm not giving you the ring.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little bit like that. I'm a little. When people ask me, I'm like, you gotta learn, bro. You gotta. When I say it's a personal journey, I'm serious. There's nothing. You can maybe get a couple things out of this, but there's nothing that you can do by watching this without going and doing it.
Right.
You gotta do it. You gotta. It's like boxing. You might think you're the best shadow boxer ever, but till you get punched in the face, you don't know how you're going to respond in any sort of situation. So you got to get on stage, and you got to get on stage everywhere. You got to do a wedding. You got to do a baby shower. You got to do a bar. You got to do a laundromat. You got to do a coffee shop. You got to do everything. You got to do colleges. You got to do a college cafeteria on top of a table while people just want their dinner, and some other people want to watch the soap opera that's on the TV behind you. That's different now because everybody has phones. You got to, you got to do stand up in places where they're not expecting you. You got to do stand up in places where they don't want you to be. You got to you got to learn how to win people over. You got to learn how to make people go, well, who the fuck is this? And by the end of it, how do we not hear about him before? You got to do all that. Like it's great when you do a show and everybody knows you. That's fucking simple. Like that's simple. When you have a crowd and they know what you're all about and they're there to see you, that is so easy. When you're starting out, and even now I do shows where nobody knows who I am. You got to do a corporate where there's limits. on what you can say. You gotta be put in a box, and you gotta figure out how to paint inside the lines and still be funny. Because in my show, I'm nowhere near the lines, right? So you gotta be able to do everything. And when I say I can say things, I can say this, but unless you go do it, it really means fuck all.
But that's why I do this show, is because it is like a time.
Ian Bagg, cranky old man.
But I mean, that is the thing about just information, and like this podcast is a wealth of information for comedians. But it is like, unless you don't go do it, then it goes on deaf ears. But my goal, so many people are trying to do comedy now, and if there's a way to help comics suck less at comedy, because I love comedy.
The ones that suck.
There's no hope, you don't think?
No, there's certain levels of suck. You know, there's the funny guy that can't figure out how to get across the bridge to the crowd, and you're like, once that guy figures out how to use a bridge, he's gonna be really good. Tom Stade's another guy you can look up.
Tom Stade. He
lives in Scotland now. When we started out together, he was so funny, but fucking bombed, and was not funny on stage. But he was the funniest guy I'd met off stage. You know what I mean? Like, just so funny. And he would bomb and bomb and bomb. And then all of a sudden, just one day, he figured it out. And he's huge in Europe. He found his crowd, and he lives in Europe now. And he's funny when he's over here, but his crowd's he's decided to make his livelihood in Europe. And he's so funny because he did it and figured out how to get across the bridge. There's other guys that aren't funny on stage and aren't funny off stage. I have no idea why they're there, but they're addicted to it. So I'm just like, do yourself.
Yeah.
But you're always going to be on open mic. I'm never going to see you get off of open mic. You know, that kind of thing. And then there's guys that are funny on stage that have figured out the formula, but have never made anybody laugh off stage. So you gotta look at things and go, oh, who's what?
Right.
Yeah, because there's a lot of emperors with no clothes on in this business.
You look like you've met quite a few of them.
I'm not saying anything. You know who you are.
It's almost like, for the connection, if you're connected to what you're talking about, then the audience will connect with it. As opposed to you trying to reach to the audience to connect, you have to connect with your material first, and then that'll translate through connection.
Yeah. I feel like if you push, you push people away. If you it's funny that we're talking about connection and I can't get this across. It's kind of hacky, but if you build it, they will come. So I don't know. I think that's the movie. But if you build the scenario and you build it up in your head, and it's funny because I'm thinking about my show right now. I'm like, I really don't know how my show starts. Like, and I'm trying to tell comedians how to fucking do things right now. But no, you got to figure out how to make them feel comfortable first, right?
Boom.
And then you got to let them get on your wavelength, like however you do stand-up. And then you got to have the right words to describe what's coming out of your head. That's how you connect. You can call bullshit on me. I know there's a couple of you are going to be fucking writing all over his thing. This guy's a piece of shit.
No one's doing that.
Oh, I guarantee you.
It's gold.
I'm talking to you. But it's just, you know, got to get out there and do it.
I mean,
your connection's different than my connection.
Yes. So the final thing here, I think we connected on that. That was good. See,
Did I give anything? It's funny. The most nervous breakdowns I've ever had is describing how to do comedy. I did this show called The History of the Joke for the History Channel, and I was one of the people they talked to. And you can see me have a meltdown when I have to describe how I'm funny, because I'm like, I just don't think about it. I do it. So I don't, when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, well, you do this, and then you do this, and I'm like, oh, I've just built a pentagram. You know? So, Yeah.
But that
Yeah, I'm fantastic.
everyone has a different. We all have the same destination, but it's how you get there is uniquely yours.
Right.
But there are techniques and concepts which you did share, which can help comedians find their own unique path.
Right.
You gave them a machete to start cutting their own path.
Yeah, just do it. Just enjoy it.
Yes.
And I like when people say, well, you're busy building your crowd. And then the guy will get that in his head. And he goes, well, I was only trying to make a certain amount of people laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, no.
Yeah.
No. Like it's okay. It's okay if you do something and only a certain group get it. But we want the whole crowd to laugh. That's everybody's goal is to have the crowd laugh, not 4 or 5 people in the room.
Well, early on, didn't you have trouble with you would only make the back of the room laugh and not the audience? I feel like I heard you say that.
I was pretty good at playing to the comics and was given shit for it quite a few times. One time I was on a tour for Just for Laughs with Dane Cook, Jim Brewer, Alonzo Bowden, and one other guy who I can't remember who it was, but I was having to follow Dane, and this is right when Dane was becoming Dane. Like, it was fire. It was fucking fire. And I don't mind following anybody, but I was going down. Like people were just like, what did we just see? That's something's going on. They know, like there's a, like there's an, and now Ian Bagg. And now, and I go there and I'm just tanking, and the guys that I'm on the tour with are just fucking laughing at me, know. And the producer of the show thinks that I'm doing it on purpose. I'm just like, are you fucking serious? Like, it's the worst. Producers are the best and the worst people. They're great because they want to put on shows. They fucking know nothing about comedy, and their yip yap and the advice they give people is fucking bullshit for 99% of the time. It's just like, well, this person did that. Well, I'm not that person. If they'd come up to me and go, are you having fun? I'd be like, I would have been honest and said, can I go on in front of Dane? Because fucking something's going on with Dane and I can't explain it. I'm seeing lightning captured in a fucking bottle right now, and you guys are like letting me go up and pretend I'm a fucking butterfly. It was just so annoying. And they didn't, and they think we know who the next star is going to be. Well, they just picked a bunch of us that they thought were going to do very well. Mm-hmm. And one guy was becoming a star. So.
Did you switch in the lineup?
No, I had to fucking bomb the whole tour.
The whole tour you bombed?
11 shows, just fucking... I remember, I think I did well in Vancouver or something like that. It was just...
The hometown hero.
No, it wasn't even that. It was just like, fuck, I had Buddy out and I think we got drunk and I just went on stage.
Oh my gosh.
It was fun.
So what is a common trait? You're around the 1% of comedians. Like, is there a common trait or a discipline or an attribute that comedians that excel to that level have?
Work ethic, mostly.
Work ethic, okay.
Yeah, it's going back to Gary Vee. It's and I love him, and people are like, well, it's Gary Vee. It's just, it's a crazy internet guy that talks about things, and he has a belief in putting in the work, and I think I'm along with those guys. I gave up all my Saturday nights. I canceled a lot of things. Mm-hmm. A lot of I wouldn't want to be married to anybody but my wife. But I didn't meet my wife until much later in my career, when I could actually put something into a relationship. It's finding somebody while you're going through that is very difficult. It's like some of the guys that I know got married early, and I don't know how they found those women. Like I don't know how you find somebody in your life where you go, I'm in love with you, but I have a mistress and she's more important to you, and her name is comedy. and I will go see her and lie to you about going to see her.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
And to find somebody that goes, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Before my
I
wife.
enjoy seeing you with Mistress. Yeah.
Then she'll be like, "Why you haven't been to Mistress in a while?
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
aren't you going to
well,
Mistress?"
that's how it is now. For me, if I'm home more than 2 weeks, my wife is like, you should probably get back on the road.
Right.
You should probably go see your fucking bitch comedy.
But it's a legit lifestyle. That people who want to pursue it, it is a lifestyle.
It is the best and the worst. Yeah.
Heroin.
It changes, like, your schedule changes fucking rapidly. There's nothing, Yeah.
Always on call. At
the
my
beginning,
level,
yeah.
if someone calls me, he's like,
Yeah,
"Hey,
sure.
I have a $75 gig in town. If you want to do it, can you be here in 30 minutes?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, honey, I got to cancel dinner. I
Yeah.
got to go make $75.
Yeah. Now, now I get those calls and I'm just like, so what number am I? Like, how many other people did you fucking call before you called me?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
fuck you. I got a couple guys. Hey, I got a guy just sent me an email. Hey, you want to be part of the show down at the store on Sunday? I'm like, fuck off. It's Thursday. You didn't just book this.
Mm-hmm.
Bite my dick.
I thought we were better, not bitter.
No,
Ian.
certain times.
Certain times.
I'm Melania. I say that I'm better, but I'll tell people to fuck off. No, you know what I'm saying? Like, now I want more of a life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I go out and do things other than stand up. And I can tell you right now, if my wife heard that, she'd go, bullshit. But guess what? Monday, Tuesdays are her now. And it didn't used to be that. When I was doing comedy, fucking, it was 7 days a week. I was going out doing sets, then going and doing open mics. I'd fucking, up until about 10 years ago, I was still doing 4 or 5 open mics a week.
And how long into your career was that? How many years?
10 years ago.
So up to about 10 years into your career, you were still
15
hitting
years.
4 or 5 open mics a week. Yeah.
And then you just, all of a sudden you go, oh, you know what, guys? Really fun, but I can't be associated with you guys anymore. Like, it's all of a sudden it becomes quality over quantity. Like, me being on a shit bar gig doesn't get me any better for being in front of 300 to 10,000 people.
Yes.
So.
But this is 10, 15 years in the game.
Right.
Listeners need to understand. This isn't him being like, I don't feel like it. This is him like, I've been forging the sword in this environment. Close that door so new ones can open.
Yes.
I just want that perspective for comedians that know where it's coming from. This isn't someone who didn't feel like it. This is someone who earned it the hard way and then was like, okay, now I've earned the right to say no to this bar gig.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then find something else that you're not good at. And learning. Like I do my podcast and I'm learning from that every time I do it. You know what I mean?
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Podcasting is a lot of work.
Well, you know what it's teaching you how to do if you ever get a TV show? It's teaching you to be able to be a producer.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I didn't think about that.
it's everything that we do in our industry. The beginning is college. You know what I mean? It's your college years.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next step is trying to put that business together. And then the next step after that is being able to run the business. So the guys that don't do the college years are very noticeable.
Boom.
Yeah.
Earn it.
Yeah.
So we touched on this at the beginning. The final thing, I would be remiss because you're the master of this craft of crowd work.
You guys can't have it. It's mine.
He's gonna hold it.
It's my ball.
He's like, you just got to do it a lot and then you'll get better at it. But like when you started out, was it just you would just ask how did you develop this into it becomes like an hour show?
I think it's just curiosity. It's all my show is just based on curiosity.
Okay.
I ask these questions when I sit down and talk to somebody. You know, it's not always the same question, but I ask, and I want to hear your answer. And that's all the show is.
Listening.
Asking, having a great time, laughing.
And I think it's valuable that you said these are questions you would ask off stage.
Yes.
That when you're on stage, you just ask them as if it's a
you ask
conversation.
questions and learn and hear the answers. So. People got cookies here.
There's cookies in this hotel lobby. So, I guess before we, that guy said he was a comedian, by the way, as well.
What's that? I'm sorry.
The guy
girl
was
just,
like,
she just dropped her cookie on the floor.
did she eat it anyway?
Put it back in there. Nobody
Did
will
you
know.
put the cookie back?
Just put it back in there.
Did she just put the
No,
cookie
she
back?
didn't.
Oh.
That'd be awesome if she put it. There's a garbage right there, I think, right on the
Live
corner.
podcast.
It's
hilarious. Yeah, the guy that works here was talking to me as we were setting up. He's like, "Oh, I'm a comedian." I was like, "Have you ever done it?" He's like, "No."
That's funny. There's so many people that say that.
Yes. So, but I think the valuable lesson from this interview is you have to do it.
Yeah.
Period. Just do it, and you will learn as you do.
When you're doing, there's for the first 5, and people are like 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta. If you're sitting at home watching TV, you're failing.
Boom.
I did not see one Seinfeld until they came on to repeats because I was never home on a Thursday night. So that's the way comedy's got to be for you. You got to be if you're at home, if you're at home between the hours of 7 and 10. You're cheating yourself because you just gotta get out there and do it.
Boom. All right. Hot breath of verse. What you just experienced is a crash course in the reality of comedy, and that is doing the work.
Come on through.
No, you're good.
You're all good. You're all good, girl.
We're just doing the outro. You're good. We're in this hotel lobby. And doing the work includes meeting people in hotel lobbies and doing podcasts. But at the end of the day, all these
Ritz-Carlton.
it is the Ritz-Carlton of Sandy Springs. So all these techniques you've learned, all these insights you've learned, at the end of the day, if you don't work at them, they are going to be useless to you. So if anything you learned from this interview, put in the work. No excuses, no next time. If you want to do comedy, you have to do it, period. And this is a comedy
like professional sports, bro. You gotta work your ass off.
Period.
And here's the other thing, same as professional sports, and I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, please.
Have fun.
Have fun.
Just have fun. Yeah, if it's not fun, you're done, bro.
Have fun doing the work.
Have fun doing the work. It's when we say work, the work is just getting off your butt.
Yeah.
Being on stage is not the work. Yeah. The work later on in life is getting onto the plane. You know, that's the work is making yourself do something. Being on stage is, if you're not getting off on that, if being on stage is actually work, you're not for comedy.
But you are good to still listen if you want to listen, even if
like,
you're not.
Please don't
good for
take
the
my
stage.
take my listeners.
No. Hey, come and go as you please. All I know is in all these episodes, we just learn a lot, and this we learned.
Thanks, bud.
From a master.
Thanks for asking me,
dude. I'm a fan. I've been a fan. I wish I could have come to the shows.
Are you in the festival or something? There's a festival going on?
There is the Laughing Skull Festival, but I'm just booked at a club this weekend.
Which club?
Here. Atlanta Comedy Theater.
Oh, I haven't even heard of that one.
It's north. It's north of the city a little bit.
Uh-huh.
We have cities. I mean, we have clubs like downtown here, north of the city, south.
Are they all in competition with each other?
They're all like different demographics. Like they're all in different areas and they cater to a different audience. So it's Atlanta's good like that to develop as well because you can perform in front of a diverse amount of people in one night.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm performing in Atlanta again. I like it here a lot. So.
Oh, well, we like you here.
Oh, thanks, man.
So,
Sweet tea.
If you did enjoy this episode, please, first off, the best way you can support the show, reach out to Ian. Let him know how much you enjoyed this. What was your favorite part or not favorite part? But just connect with him. Let him know that you found this valuable, so he'll come back on here and share even more secrets that he's hesitant to share. But it's hotbreathpodcast.com is the website. The YouTube page, of course, Hot Breath Pod. JoelByersComedy.com is my website, where you can read my blog. I also have other exciting content on there. But at the end of the day, it's all about just getting better at comedy, and this gentleman here helped us do that today. Please let them know where they can find you and all that.
You can find me on ianbagg.com, and then it'll take you to all my social medias. Ian Bagg at Instagram, Ian Bagg Comedy at Facebook. You know, it'll take you to all of them. So please, and listen to my podcast, Ian Bagg Bought a House.
Boom.
All about me, Ian Bagg, doing stand-up, and it bought me a house.
So if this could be a fun little activity, could you look into the camera and tell people why they should listen to the Hot Breath podcast?
Guys, because I'm on it. That's why you should listen to this
Who's
goddamn show. Me, Ian Bagg, on the Hot Breath Comedy Show. No, podcast, right? Hot Breath Podcast. Hot Breath. Oh, my God. Ladies and gentlemen, you should listen to Hot Breath Comedy, because it is the best thing to learn about comedy. Going deep into how the sausages are made.
Boom. Ian Bagg, thanks for being on Hot Breath. Yeah, that's great. Comedy sausage.
But comedy sausage. That's what Hot Breath Comedy Sausage. That's what you call it.
All right, well, thanks for being on Hot Breath, Ian.
Thanks for having me on your Black Panther Party show.
Hot Breath.